Story: Millionaire walked in holding his mistress's hand and discarded his pregnant wife. He walked out with nothing. Cole Brennan gives his mistress a gold key in front of the pregnant wife who helped save his first hotel. He thinks the gesture proves who belongs in his future. Before midnight, however, another key will matter far more. The executive keycard Cole believes no one can take from him. Avery does not arrive looking for revenge. She arrives determined not to be erased. Stay until the revolving doors turn for the last time. Subscribe for more original stories about dignity and consequences, and listen closely when Julia Maddox whispers, "Don't sign anything he puts in front of you tonight." Viewer disclaimer: this is an original work of fiction for entertainment purposes only. The names, hotel group, lender, contracts, family circumstances, corporate decisions, and every depicted situation are fictional and are not intended to represent any real person or organization. Don't sign anything he puts in front of you tonight. Julia Maddox said it without looking at Avery. The grand ballroom of the Halcyon Manhattan glittered around them. Crystal chandeliers burned above polished marble. A pianist played softly beside a wall of white orchids. Champagne moved through the room on silver trays while investors, hotel executives, lenders, and reporters waited for Cole Brennan to announce what everyone had already been calling inevitable. $210 million. Atlas Ridge Capital, a new expansion facility that would turn Brennan House Group from a luxury hotel company into a national empire. Avery Dalton Brennan stood near the bottom of the grand staircase with one hand beneath her 8-month pregnant belly. Her ivory gown followed the curve of her body. Pale golden blonde hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders. To anyone watching, she looked calm. Only Julia noticed the way Avery's fingers had tightened around her clutch. "Why would he put anything in front of me?" Avery asked. Julia's expression did not change. Before she could answer, the revolving glass doors at the far end of the lobby turned. Conversation thinned, then stopped. Cole Brennan walked inside. Dark suit, steel gray eyes, perfect posture. The same confidence that had once convinced lenders to back a single struggling boutique hotel now seemed to move ahead of him like an invisible security detail. But no one was looking at his suit. They were looking at his hand. It was holding Tessa Rowan's. Phones rose almost immediately. Not dozens. Just enough. Enough to become evidence. Enough to become memory. Tessa wore black silk and a controlled smile. Cole did not release her hand when he saw Avery. That was the first cruelty. The second was that he walked directly toward her. Avery. Her eyes moved from his face to their joined hands. Then back. No tears. No scene. Just one slow breath. Cole reached inside his jacket and removed a cream envelope. Her full name was printed across the front. Avery Dalton Brennan. He held it out. "What is this? You should read it privately. You brought her here publicly." A few people nearby pretended not to listen. Cole lowered his voice. "Don't make tonight harder than it needs to be." Avery took the envelope. Inside, the first line was enough. Proposed marital separation and founder transition agreement. Her son moved beneath her palm. Cole watched her carefully. "After tonight, there's no reason for us to keep pretending." The piano continued behind them. Soft, elegant, almost obscene. Avery looked up. "Pretending what?" "That this marriage still exists." Tessa's fingers tightened around his hand. Cole barely noticed. An event photographer approached holding a velvet presentation box. "Mr. Brennan, we're ready for the key ceremony." Cole turned. "Perfect." The photographer opened the box. Inside lay a polished gold ceremonial key engraved with the Halcyon Manhattan. Avery knew what it represented. Founder access. Legacy. The ceremonial symbol Cole had once promised they would hold together when their first hotel finally made a profit. Instead, Cole took it from the box and placed it in Tessa's hand. A camera shutter snapped. Then another. Tessa looked surprised, but pleased. "You said this was for later." Cole smiled. Plans changed. Avery stared at the gold key resting against Tessa's black dress. 5 years of marriage. One company. One child still waiting to be born. Reduced to a photograph Cole apparently wanted the world to see. Julia stepped closer to Avery. "Avery, I'm fine." She was not, but she was thinking. That was different. Cole turned back to her. "There are additional documents in the envelope. The lawyers can walk you through them after my announcement." "Additional documents?" "Founder transition. Shareholder matters. Nothing complicated. Nothing complicated. Avery almost smiled. Inside her clutch was an email she had printed 3 hours earlier. Atlas Ridge Capital, funding condition notice. One unresolved condition remained open. The $210 million facility had not been fully cleared. Cole either did not know that, or believed it did not matter. He glanced toward the ballroom doors, where his communications team was signaling that the presentation would begin in 12 minutes. "Please don't create a problem tonight," he said. Avery looked at him, then at Tessa holding the gold key, then at the giant screen behind the staircase. Brennan House Group, the next chapter. Cole believed the next chapter belonged to him. Avery slid the cream envelope into her clutch beside the Atlas Ridge notice. "Go give your speech." He studied her for a second, then smiled as though she had surrendered. Cole took Tessa's hand again and walked toward the stage. Avery watched them disappear into the applause. He had entered the Halcyon believing he was about to close one marriage and open a new empire. He had not yet realized that the door worth $210 million was still locked. And somewhere in the paperwork, his own decisions had left the key on the other side. "You really believe I gave you this life?" Cole Brennan asked Avery as though 5 years of history belonged to him alone. Before the Halcyon Manhattan, Brennan House Group had been one struggling Brooklyn boutique hotel, 38 rooms, a leaking roof, unpaid vendors, and an office small enough for Avery to reach the printer without leaving her chair. Cole had vision. Avery built survival. She negotiated lender waivers, rebuilt pricing models, created cash forecasts, managed payroll, and once calculated that a plumbing disaster had left the company 41 days from running out of cash. Back then, Cole said, "We're building something." As the company grew, his story changed. "My wife handles the numbers" became "Avery helps with finance," and eventually, "I built Brennan House from one distressed hotel." Avery still owned 31% and still held a board seat. Her pregnancy led her to reduce travel and day-to-day executive work, but she had never resigned, surrendered her shares, or given up her board position. Cole nevertheless began telling investors she had chosen family over business. Now, beneath the chandeliers of the Halcyon, he told her to take the settlement and leave after his announcement. "You haven't been handling daily operations for months. I reduced my workload for the pregnancy. I never resigned." Cole gave a dismissive shrug. The company moved on. Avery stared at him. "That does not erase a board seat or 31% ownership." Cole told her to keep her shares until the financing closed and let the company move forward without her. That phrase, "until the financing closed," made her listen differently. He accused her of wanting to punish the company because she was angry about Tessa. "That would require me to confuse you with the company," Avery said. For the first time, his expression shifted. Minutes later, he returned to Tessa and the stage. Avery opened her clutch. Beside the separation agreement was an Atlas Ridge notice, final funding condition, pending. Cole had spent months removing Avery from his public story. The ownership records had not followed his script. 31% still belonged to her. And the $210 million future he was about to celebrate was not yet fully cleared. Who approved $3.8 million for Tessa Rowan? Avery asked Julia Maddox 6 days before the gala. The financing diligence package contained a proposed $3.8 million arrangement for Rowan Creative Partners, consulting compensation, a funding success bonus, an executive apartment benefit, post-funding compensation, and a proposed chief experience officer role. Tessa's firm had done legitimate brand work. Avery insisted that fact remained separate from the affair she suspected. Julia confirmed the board had reviewed parts of the consulting relationship, but she could not point to final approval for the entire package or the executive appointment. Was Cole's personal relationship with Tessa formally disclosed where it needed to be? Avery asked. Julia knew they were close. She could not confirm a complete formal disclosure. "Then we find facts before we make accusations." Julia brought in independent counsel Aaron Pierce. Avery refused to weaponize private messages or gossip. She wanted a clean record of what had been earned, what had been approved, what had merely been proposed, and what Atlas Ridge had received. Aaron's first review found a certification signed by Cole concerning material related party arrangements and executive conflicts relevant to the financing. The signature did not prove intentional misconduct. It did create a question. Was the information behind the certification complete? Avery asked whether the deal was dead. Aaron said no. Atlas Ridge could continue, request more information, or pause final clearance while the issue was reviewed. Then correct the record, Avery said. Julia warned that Cole might blame her. He can blame me, Avery answered. Just don't let anyone call legitimate work fake because my marriage failed. 3 days later, Aaron confirmed a second issue. Certain founder and governance rights in the transaction could not be altered without the approvals specified in Brennan House's existing agreements. Avery looked at the folder Cole's office had sent her and realized he had been planning her exit while still depending on rights he could not exercise for her. He thought she was standing in his way. The documents said she was standing in her own place. Did Cole steal $3.8 million? Avery asked Aaron Pierce 3 days before the Halcyon Gala. No, he answered. Rowan Creative had provided documented services. The investigation was not a morality play about whether Tessa deserved to be paid. It was a governance review of additional benefits, approvals, conflicts, and disclosures connected to a $210 million financing. Aaron showed Avery the proposed executive role and benefits that had not yet received all required approvals. Then he showed her Cole's assigned officer certification. Do we know Atlas Ridge was intentionally misled? Avery asked. Not yet. Do we know Cole deliberately concealed anything? Not yet. Then nobody says we do. That answer mattered. Avery was hurt, but she would not turn hurt into evidence. She asked what Atlas Ridge was entitled to receive and authorized counsel to provide only accurate supplemental information. Aaron warned that the lender could delay final clearance. Avery accepted the risk. If the deal requires a statement we cannot verify, the answer is not to pretend. Julia asked whether they should cancel the gala. Avery refused. The hotel had opened. Employees and vendors had done their work. If Cole told the truth about the financing status, there was no reason the celebration had to become a public crisis. Aaron then showed Avery the event schedule. Tessa was listed for an executive introduction as Chief Experience Officer, even though the board had not finally approved that appointment. Avery closed the folder. Cole had begun presenting tomorrow as a fact before the people and documents governing that tomorrow had agreed. She would not expose him. She would not rescue him either. If he tells the truth, she said, nothing happens tonight. And if he did not, the correction would belong to the record, not to revenge. On the afternoon of the gala, Avery walked through the Halcyon before the guests arrived. Housekeepers were polishing brass near the elevators. A banquet captain checked place settings. A young front desk supervisor rehearsed the welcome speech twice because she was nervous. Those people had spent months preparing for an opening that existed independently of Avery's marriage. That was why she had refused Julia's suggestion to cancel the event. She would not turn hundreds of employees into collateral damage simply because Cole had confused a private betrayal with corporate authority. At the ballroom doors, Julia caught up with her. Aaron says Atlas Ridge has acknowledged the supplemental disclosure. Did they cancel? No. They're reviewing. Avery nodded. Then that is what we say if anyone asks. Julia studied her. You know Cole may announce the financing anyway. Then someone authorized to speak for Atlas Ridge can correct him. And you? Avery looked toward the stage where the gold ceremonial key waited in its velvet box. I'm not taking the microphone away from him. She paused. I'm also not lying for him. Julia asked whether Avery wanted security nearby in case the confrontation became emotional. Avery almost smiled. I want a chair. A chair. I'm 8 months pregnant. I'm not standing for an hour because my husband has bad judgment. For the first time that day, Julia laughed. The sound loosened something in Avery's chest. She had been treating the evening like a courtroom in her imagination. It was still a hotel opening. There would be music, employees, guests, and a child moving beneath her ribs. Cole could choose honesty. If he did, the night could remain difficult without becoming destructive. If he did not, Avery would not manufacture consequences. She would simply stop absorbing them before they reached him. She chose motherhood. Cole Brennan said it into the microphone as though Avery had signed the sentence herself. The ballroom of the Halcyon Manhattan glowed beneath crystal chandeliers. Champagne glasses caught the light. A string quartet had gone silent near the marble staircase. 300 guests faced the stage. Investors, hotel executives, Atlas Ridge representatives, reporters. And in the front row, Avery Dalton Brennan sat with one hand resting beneath her 8-month pregnant belly. Cole stood beneath a 20-foot screen displaying Brennan House Group, the next chapter. Tessa Rowan waited near the edge of the stage. The gold ceremonial key rested against her black dress. Cole smiled at the audience. As Brennan House enters its next era, Avery has decided to step away from corporate life and focus on motherhood and family. Applause began. Avery stood. It stopped. Not gradually. Immediately. Cole's eyes found hers. Avery. Her pale golden hair fell softly over her ivory gown. She did not raise her voice. I chose maternity leave. A pause. Not erasure. Someone near the press section lowered a champagne glass. Cole's smile tightened. This isn't necessary. You just announced my decision for me. We discussed this. No, Avery stepped into the aisle. You discussed it around me. Phones began to rise. Cole looked toward his communications director, then back at Avery. You haven't been involved in daily operations for months. I reduced travel because I'm 8 months pregnant. That's what I said. No, her voice remained quiet. You said I chose to leave the company. Cole's jaw flexed. Tessa shifted near the stage. The gold key moved in her hand. Cole tried to recover the room. Avery remains an important part of Brennan House's history, and obviously she'll always be family. History. The word landed harder than he intended. Avery looked toward the screen. 5 years of lender meetings. Payroll nights. Hotel openings. 31% ownership. Reduced to history while she was still standing in the building. Cole stepped down from the stage. Can we do this privately? You started it publicly. His expression cooled. An assistant approached carrying a dark leather folder. Cole took it, then held it toward Avery. Fine. Sign the founder transition agreement, and we can deal with the rest later. Avery looked at the folder. Tonight. Yes. You want me to sign away operational rights tonight. It formalizes what already exists. What already exists according to whom? Avery. According to whom, Cole? His voice dropped. Don't do this. Answer me. He glanced at the people watching, then said the thing he had apparently convinced himself was true. You haven't been functioning as an executive. Avery's hand moved over her son. I'm on maternity leave. You keep saying that like it changes the reality. It does. Cole pushed the folder closer. Just sign it. Avery accepted the folder. For half a second, relief crossed his face. Then she closed it without opening a page. No, the relief vanished. You're being emotional. Avery looked at him. Around them, the ballroom had become so quiet that the soft click of camera shutters sounded almost mechanical. No, one beat. I'm being precise. Julia Maddox stood near the Atlas Ridge delegation. Aaron Pierce was beside her. Neither moved. Cole noticed them, then noticed the printed notice in Avery's other hand. What is that? A funding notice. His expression hardened. We are not discussing financing here. You already are. I know exactly where the financing stands. Avery held his gaze. Do you? Cole stepped closer. Atlas Ridge is reviewing supplemental paperwork. That does not change the deal. So you received the notice. Of course I received it. There it was. No misunderstanding. No missing email. He knew. Avery's expression became almost painfully calm. Then tell the room the truth. Cole stared at her. Behind him, the screen still promised the next chapter. He could have stopped. He could have returned to the microphone and said final funding clearance remained under review. Nothing more. No humiliation. No confrontation. Just the truth. Instead, Cole turned away from his pregnant wife and walked back onto the stage. Tessa watched him approach. Cole, she whispered. He ignored her. He reached the microphone. Avery is understandably under a great deal of stress tonight. Avery did not move. Cole looked across the ballroom. His confidence returned one sentence at a time. Let me make something absolutely clear. Julia glanced at Aaron. Aaron slowly opened the folder in his hands. Cole continued. Our relationship with Atlas Ridge is secure. Avery closed her eyes for 1 second, then opened them. Cole smiled. And our $210 million expansion financing is fully cleared. Aaron Pierce stood. The room went still. Cole had been warned. He had received the notice. He had been offered silence. And still, he chose the microphone. That statement requires correction. Aaron Pierce said it from the second row. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The sentence crossed the Halcyon Manhattan ballroom like a blade through silk. Cole Brennan froze behind the microphone. Above him, crystal chandeliers burned against mirrored ceilings. Behind him, the giant screen still displayed $210 million expansion facility. Fully cleared. 300 guests stopped moving. Avery Dalton Brennan remained standing near the front row, one hand beneath her 8-month pregnant belly. Cole looked at Aaron. What exactly are you correcting? Aaron stepped into the aisle. The financing status. Cole gave a short laugh. Atlas Ridge is proceeding. An Atlas Ridge representative stood near Julia Maddox. Our relationship with Brennan House remains active. Cole nodded sharply. Exactly. The representative continued. However, final funding clearance has not been issued. The room changed. Phones lifted higher. Cole's smile disappeared. That's a technical review. Yes, Aaron said. And it remains unresolved. Cole looked toward Avery. You did this. Avery did not move. No, you contacted Atlas Ridge. Independent counsel corrected the disclosure. Because you told them to. Avery's eye stayed on him. Because the certification required accurate information. Aaron opened the folder in his hands. We are not discussing private allegations tonight. We are correcting one public statement. That restraint made the moment colder. No affair photographs appeared. No messages flashed across the screen. No accusations about bedrooms. Just paperwork. Aaron continued. Atlas Ridge received supplemental information regarding an unresolved related party disclosure connected to a proposed compensation arrangement involving Rowan Creative Partners. Tessa's face changed. She looked at Cole. What arrangement? He did not answer. Aaron kept his voice neutral. Until Atlas Ridge completes its review, the $210 million facility cannot accurately be described as fully cleared. Cole stepped away from the podium. This is absurd. Julia Maddox moved closer to the stage. Cole. No. We are not letting lawyers turn a disclosure form into a crisis. Aaron's expression remained unchanged. The form is not the issue. He removed one page. The certification is. Avery recognized it instantly. Cole did too. Aaron did not project the document onto the ballroom screen. He simply placed a copy on the table beside the stage. At the bottom, Cole Brennan. Cole stared at his own signature. Aaron spoke carefully. This officer certification addresses material related party arrangements and executive conflicts relevant to the financing process. Cole's jaw tightened. I signed dozens of financing documents. Yes. And Rowan Creative is a legitimate vendor. No one has said otherwise. Tessa's company did real work. Correct. Tessa looked between them. Then why is everyone acting like I did something wrong? Avery answered. They aren't. Tessa turned toward her. Avery's voice stayed quiet. This isn't about whether your company performed work. She looked at Cole. It's about what he disclosed when he signed. Cole's face hardened. You're enjoying this. Avery almost looked hurt. Almost. No. She glanced around the ballroom. Employees were watching. So were people who had spent months opening the Halcyon. This is exactly what I asked them not to turn it into. Cole pointed toward the financing notice in her hand. You stopped $210 million. No, you created the delay. No, his voice rose. Then what do you call this? Avery looked at him for several seconds. You certified something. A beat. Atlas Ridge asked whether it was complete. Another beat. They are checking. Cole stared at her. That is all. Julia stepped forward. The board also needs to review certain proposed executive arrangements. Tessa's head turned. What executive arrangements? Cole said quickly. Not now. Julia did not look at him. The proposed Chief Experience Officer position has not received board approval. Tessa went still. You told me it had. Cole lowered his voice. It was being finalized. That's not what you said. A whisper moved across the ballroom. Cole reached toward Tessa. She took half a step back. Only half. But Avery saw it. So did Cole. He turned toward Avery again. This is what you wanted. Avery shook her head. If I wanted revenge, you would have seen photographs. Silence. If I wanted humiliation, you would have seen messages. Tessa's eyes dropped. Avery continued. I asked for one thing. What? The truth. Cole looked at the giant screen behind him. Fully cleared. 2 words. Both now impossible to defend. Julia spoke. The independent directors will convene an executive session immediately after this event. Cole stared at her. For what? To review the disclosure process, the proposed Rowan arrangements, and the officer certification. The microphone beside him remained live. For once, Cole had nothing to say into it. Avery looked at the signature on the table. All night, he had treated her refusal to sign his papers as the obstacle standing between him and the future. Now everyone in the room could see the deeper irony. The signature causing the problem was not Avery's. It had been there all along, and it belonged to Cole. What did you promise me that was actually yours? Tessa Rowan asked the question outside the executive conference room. Cole Brennan did not answer. 37 minutes earlier, he had been standing beneath crystal chandeliers announcing a $210 million financing victory. Now the music in the Halcyon Manhattan had stopped. Champagne was being removed from half-empty tables. Atlas Ridge representatives had withdrawn into a private room with counsel. And behind a wall of smoked glass, Brennan House Group's independent directors were deciding what to do with its chief executive. Avery Dalton Brennan sat near the far end of the conference table. 8 months pregnant, pale golden hair falling softly over one shoulder, one hand resting beneath her belly. She did not demand Cole's removal. She did not give a speech. When the discussion turned to Cole's suspension, Avery recused herself from the vote. Julia Maddox confirmed quorum. Aaron Pierce presented the documents. Rowan Creative Partners had performed legitimate work. That remained undisputed. The problem was everything around it. The proposed funding success bonus, the executive apartment benefit, the post-funding compensation, the unapproved chief experience officer role, and the officer certification bearing Cole Brennan's signature. Cole was given time to respond. He used most of it explaining why none of those things should matter. Tessa earned the consulting fees. Aaron nodded. No one disputes that. The executive package was commercially reasonable. That is under review. Atlas Ridge still wants the deal. They have paused final clearance. Cole leaned back. So you're suspending me because I had a relationship with a consultant? Julia's expression hardened. No, a beat. We are considering safeguards because the board needs an independent review of whether a personal relationship affecting company decisions was properly disclosed. There was nothing emotional in the sentence. That made it harder to fight. After 48 minutes, the independent directors voted. Pending investigation, Cole Brennan was placed on administrative suspension as CEO. His 43% ownership remained untouched. He was not arrested. His shares did not disappear. No one declared him guilty. But his executive system privileges were suspended. Day-to-day authority moved temporarily to an interim executive appointed by the board. Atlas Ridge kept the $210 million funding clearance paused. Cole stared at the written resolution. You're suspending the founder of Brennan House. Julia answered calmly. We're suspending the CEO pending review. Outside the conference room, Tessa was waiting. The gold ceremonial key was still in her hand. You told me tonight made everything official. Cole loosened his tie. It still can. My chief experience officer position? We'll fix it. You said it was approved. It was going to be. Tessa stared at him. That isn't what you said. Cole lowered his voice. Avery created this mess. Tessa looked through the glass. Avery sat quietly beside Aaron. No smile. No triumph. Just documents. Tessa turned back. And the $3.8 million? Your consulting fees are legitimate. I'm not asking about those. Cole said nothing. The funding bonus? Depends on the financing. The apartment? Depends on the role. My post-funding contract? Silence. Something in Tessa's face changed. Not heartbreak. Recognition. She looked down at the gold key Cole had placed in her hand hours earlier. You gave me this in front of everyone. It's ceremonial. You told me it meant I belonged here. You do. Do I? Cole reached for her hand. Tessa. She stepped back, then held up the key. You told me the title was yours to give. He said nothing. You told me the package was settled. Silence. You told me Avery had no power left. Cole's jaw tightened. She doesn't control the board. Tessa glanced toward the closed conference room door. Apparently neither do you. She placed the gold key into his palm. The metal clicked softly against his wedding ring. Then she asked the question again. What did you promise me that was actually yours? Cole opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Tessa walked away. Her heels struck the marble in slow, clean echoes. Cole watched until the revolving doors swallowed her reflection. A security manager approached from behind. Mr. Brennan. Cole turned. Your executive master keycard, please. It will be reactivated if and when the board authorizes it. For several seconds, Cole did not move. Then he reached into his jacket. Black card. Silver lettering. Brennan House Group. Executive access. He placed it in the security manager's hand. One key had been returned by the woman he promised a future. The other had been collected by the company he believed he controlled. Through the glass, Avery saw both happen. She did not smile. She only rested her hand over her unborn son. Cole had spent years believing power meant possessing the keys. That night, he learned how quickly doors stop opening when the people behind them stop pretending they belong to you. Cole Brennan turned the gold ceremonial key over in his palm after midnight. Was any of this ever enough for you? The Halcyon Manhattan had finally gone quiet. No string quartet. No applause. No cameras turning toward the stage. Only the low hum of the hotel's ventilation system and the soft clink of staff clearing abandoned champagne glasses from white linen tables. The giant screen behind the ballroom had gone dark. $210 million no longer glowed above anyone's head. Cole sat alone beneath a crystal chandelier. His tie was gone. His jacket hung open. The gold ceremonial key Tessa had returned rested on the table in front of him. Beside it was nothing. No executive master keycard. Security had already collected that. Cole still owned 43% of Brennan House Group. He was still wealthy, still a founder, still entitled to respond to the independent investigation. But his CEO authority was suspended. Atlas Ridge had not cleared the financing. Tessa had walked away, and the room that had once moved around him now continued operating without asking his permission. Avery Dalton Brennan approached from the marble corridor. 8 months pregnant. Ivory gown. Pale golden hair falling softly over her shoulders. One hand rested beneath her belly. In the other was the cream envelope Cole had handed her hours earlier. She placed it on the table. Proposed marital separation and founder transition agreement. Cole looked at the envelope. You're not signing? My lawyer will respond. Avery remained standing. Cole looked toward the dark stage. Then what was enough? The hotels? The board seat? The shares? Avery's expression barely changed. You still think this is about what you gave me? Cole's fingers closed around the useless gold key. You got what you wanted. No, my financing is frozen. Paused. My board suspended me. The independent directors did. Tessa left. Avery said nothing. Cole looked up. You're really going to pretend none of this has anything to do with you? Avery's expression softened. Not with guilt. With exhaustion. I asked for accurate disclosure. You knew what would happen. No, she looked at him. I knew what could happen if you kept speaking as though every decision had already been made. Silence settled between them. Cole glanced at her belly. What about him? Avery's hand moved instinctively. Our son. You're going to take him too? No. The answer came so quickly that Cole looked surprised. He can have a father. Avery paused. Whether he has a good one will be your decision. Cole looked away. For several seconds, the only sound was a server rolling a card across the far side of the ballroom. What do you want in the divorce? He asked. A fair division of marital assets. My shares. No, the company. No, my money. What the law says is marital property will be handled by lawyers. Cole frowned. Then what do you want? Avery looked around the Halcyon. 5 years earlier, she had spent nights calculating whether their first hotel could survive 41 more days. Now marble columns rose around them beneath chandeliers worth more than their first annual payroll. And somehow, Cole still believed everything had to be about what she could take. A divorce, she said. A fair parenting plan. Then she looked directly at him. And a life where I don't have to disappear so you can feel important. Cole's face changed. You think that's what I did? I think you started calling partnership weakness the moment you no longer needed to admit you depended on it. He looked toward the gold key. What about Brennan House? Avery touched her belly. I still own 31%. So you're staying. As a shareholder. And the board. That will be decided through governance. Cole exhaled. You could fight me for control. I could. But you won't. Avery shook her head. I spent years carrying this company. A pause. I'm done carrying you. Cole stared at her. There was no anger in her voice. That made the sentence final. Avery picked up the cream envelope. Then reconsidered. She left it on the table. Keep it. Cole looked at the papers. My attorney will send you something accurate. She turned toward the lobby. The revolving glass doors beyond the marble corridor reflected the city lights outside. Avery. She stopped. Cole's voice was quieter now. I really thought you would sign. Avery looked back. I know. That was the part he still did not understand. He had not lost her because she had suddenly become powerful. He had lost her because he had spent years assuming her love meant consent. Avery walked toward the exit. She did not look back again. Behind her, Cole remained beneath the chandelier with a gold ceremonial key that opened nothing a separation agreement she had refused to accept, and 43% of a company he could no longer command tonight. He was not penniless. He was not ruined. But when he finally crossed the Halcyon's revolving doors, no woman held his hand. No executive badge opened the private elevator. No crowd waited for his announcement. His coat was folded over one arm. That was all anyone could see him carrying. The glass door turned once, then closed behind him. Inside, the chandeliers kept burning. The staff kept working. The hotel kept breathing. And Avery never turned around. Cole did not leave the Halcyon penniless. His lawful ownership remained intact, and the board's investigation still had to run its course. But the two keys told the story better than any balance sheet could. Tessa had returned the gold ceremonial key he used to promise her a place that was never his alone to grant. Security had collected the executive keycard that once opened every private floor. Avery had refused the document meant to turn his assumption into her consent. When Cole finally stepped into the revolving doors, he carried his coat and the decorative gold key. Nothing else from the future he had staged for himself that night. Behind him, the Halcyon kept operating. Elevators rose. Housekeepers crossed the lobby. Guests checked in. Avery remained inside, still a shareholder, still a mother-to-be, still herself. Cole had spent years believing the man with the keys owned the building. The final lesson was quieter. Doors open because people and rules permit them to, not because one man declares they should.